I absolutely love podcasts, and in this video we're going to go through 8 tips on how to listen to hundreds of podcasts a year. Before we do that though, I'm just going to talk about why I love podcasts so much. I listen to a lot of podcasts, probably around 2 or 3 a day on average, and I get a huge amount of knowledge, insight and inspiration from them. There's obviously a huge variety of podcasts you can listen to. There's like comedy, sport, education, business, science, like technology. There's loads of different stuff. I generally listen to business and personal development, kind of like interview podcasts mostly, with like people that I find interesting, and then there's like a host who I like who asks them questions about their story and that kind of thing. I just find listening to these people really interesting, and there's 3 main reasons why I like podcasts so much. The first reason is just getting access for free to really interesting, intelligent and successful people that you otherwise wouldn't be able to get access to. There's a podcast with Obama and Bruce Springsteen, which is crazy to me that you can just listen to a conversation between like a former president of the United States and musician, and how they have gone about their careers and the things that they value. It's just so amazing that you can get that kind of access to those kind of people totally for free. I generally listen to podcasts on Spotify, which you have to pay for, but you can listen to them for free on Apple Podcasts or YouTube and things like that. Part of the reason why I think being able to listen to people who inspire you for free is so amazing is because there's this concept called the Dunbar number, which is where you have a certain amount of people that you can kind of maintain a relationship with and an idea of in your head, and it's around 150 people that you can kind of like store mentally in your head and kind of maintain a healthy relationship with, even if you don't know them. And I think podcasts allow you to have people that you don't even know who inspire you and are very like impressive as one of those people. So what I'm trying to say is, in the same way that like your parents influence you and your friends around you influence you, you can have someone like Barack Obama or Brené Brown, who I love, as one of the people in your like circle who are influencing you and shaping you. I think that's just like insanely valuable. So the second reason why I think they're so cool is that they're unscripted. And some podcasts have like structures, but generally podcasts are like unscripted things where you're just listening to conversations with people. And so you get to listen to what is like front of mind for them at that time. People are just their raw selves, and when they're asked like, what did it take for you to be successful? Like, how did you go about choosing this career, or how did you go about like finding how to be happy or getting out of depression or whatever it is, you just get what is in their mind at that moment. And normally that's quite a good indicator of genuinely how they went about achieving that thing or doing that thing. The reason that that's important is because you realize that anyone who's ever done anything is just a human who has thoughts, anxieties, concerns and dreams, and has little things that they do to try and build more of a life that they want. And listening to these people talk about the mundane and boring things that they do to achieve the great things is just kind of inspirational for me, because it kind of makes you realize like anyone can do anything. The final thing that I like about podcasts is just that they're passive. You can just listen to them whilst you're doing other things. Like, you know, instead of listening to music or whatever, when you're walking, when you're cooking, you can just have your brain filled with good things and good people, which I really like. So podcast rant over. This is 8 tips on how I listen to hundreds of podcasts a year. The first one is obviously, how do you listen to podcasts? So I listen to them with my Apple headphones here. They've got a nice orange case. They're AirPods. They're the 2nd generation, and they now cost £169. And that is just like insane value, given how much like information and knowledge I get through having these things. Like, I wouldn't be able to listen to podcasts without them. Obviously you can have the free Apple headphones if they still come with the phone. I don't think they do, but you can get the newest AirPods I think for £239, or you can get the like very first AirPods for like £100 or something like that. But the reason I like these ones so much is because they're noise cancelling, so you can listen to them on the tube when you're traveling. And previously, if you didn't have noise cancelling headphones, like the tube would just be too loud to listen to a podcast. So I love this is my favorite piece of technology. I love my AirPods. I can just listen to podcasts anywhere. And yeah, if you haven't got any, I would definitely recommend getting some. Here they are without the little orange case, just to show what they look like. Very cool. The second tip is keeping the funnel full, because if you want to listen to a lot of podcasts, you need to have a lot of podcasts to listen to. So it's important to just have a library of unlistened to podcasts. So whenever I get a recommendation or I just see an interesting podcast, I download it on Spotify, I add it to the Your Episodes thing. You can do this on Apple Music too, just by saving it, or on YouTube to save to watch later. And this just means whenever you want to listen to a podcast, you've always got something to listen to. When I want to listen to a podcast, I just open up my phone and then flick through one that I feel in the mood for. Listen to podcasts that you like. This is really important, because I wouldn't listen to very many podcasts if they were exclusively about science or technology, or even comedy ones, even though I really like listening to comedy podcasts every now and then. If all I listened to was comedy podcasts, I'd probably get bored of them. I really like listening to like business podcasts and like self-improvement interview podcasts or whatever about successful people and their mindset and stuff like that. And that is what like keeps me coming back to podcasts. So you need to find ones that you like listening to. Like building any habit, you need to just make it easy to start with, and it will be much easier listening to podcasts that you just like listening to, and then you can try stretching yourself with more challenging podcasts if you want to. But generally I just listen to podcasts that I like. Listen on 1.5 times or 2 times speed. So I generally listen to them on 1.5 times speed because I find that's like a nice balance of being able to understand what they're saying and also like what's the word I'm looking for? Digest what they're saying, and then also you are able to like pick up on jokes and stuff like that. If you listen at 2x speed, I generally find it's kind of too fast to like pick up on jokes, and it kind of just takes the fun out of listening to it a little bit. So 2 times is a bit too fast for me, but maybe I'll listen to that in the future. If you're not used to listening to things at faster speed, just go on Spotify. You can go like 1.2 first and then 1.5, just like generally work upwards, and it like you'll get used to it over time. Number 5 is listen during boring activities. This is obviously really straightforward, but I do most of my podcast listening whilst I'm doing other things. So I do it whilst I commute into work in the morning, either on my bike or on the tube. I know cycling whilst listening to a podcast might be dangerous, but generally I find it completely fine. And I do it whilst like I'm making breakfast sometimes, or just like cleaning, or it could be in the shower whilst talking to a friend, generally just like boring activities. So whenever you're doing something that doesn't really require a huge amount of attention, you can just whack in your AirPods and listen away, and that I find is just a really nice like background noise that kind of makes me start thinking about things. Jump around. So even if I'm listening to a podcast that I'm really enjoying, I will still just start another one that I want to listen to as well, because it kind of keeps it fresh, it keeps it exciting. Then I'll go back to each of them if I'm enjoying them and try and finish them off. So I don't worry about like listening to one podcast at a time, because you need to keep it exciting and keep it fresh. And even if I'm enjoying it, I'll just like listen to another one if I want to. If you're not enjoying it, don't finish it. So if I'm not enjoying a podcast, I'll just stop listening to it, because there's loads of podcasts, like a million podcasts that I would really, really enjoy listening to and get loads of value from. It's not really worth the time if I can just tell that it's a boring podcast. So I'll just stop and move on to the next one. The final tip is take a break. We don't want to flood our brains with too much information all of the time. Sometimes it's better to just not listen to anything whilst you're walking down the street, or listen to some music. I sometimes get out my phone and I'm just like, a podcast right now would send me over the top, too much information, too much inspiration. I do get that occasionally where I feel too inspired. So you do just have to take a break sometimes to keep your love of podcasts alive, because if you force it down your throat, you'll probably end up not liking them that much. If you want some recommendations on which podcasts to listen to, I made a video here about the 5 best podcasts for finding a job that you love, a career that you love. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching. I just get so much value from podcasts that I thought I'd share it with you on how I listen to so many. And yeah, thank you. I'll see you in the next one.